where the sun has just set. The sky has turned black. A thin streak burns across the horizon, like a lipless mouth stretched out in a grin, stained red like those carved into hollowed-out pumpkins on the last day of October before Halloween. Little Jack unlocked the creaking door and stepped outside. The evening was chilly. The trees swayed restlessly, and the street and pavement were empty. Electricity itched under the swinging tin hood of the streetlight, a patch of light creeping across the leaves, yellow as wax, scarlet as a scraped elbow, brown as a birthmark on aged skin. Little Jack shouldn't be out, but today is a holiday and the usual rules don't apply. The little house from which Jack has escaped is on the outskirts of town. In order to take part in the festivities, he needs to get to the center of town quickly. Jack runs between the houses as fast as he can, his white silhouette slipping from lantern to lantern. The wind tosses a pile of leaves at him from around the corner. Jack is swayed by the gust, but he stays on his feet. Jack slows his pace as he peers through the warm yellow windows, looking curiously at each one. The first door always makes him apprehensive, whether out of embarrassment at the visit or because of the holiday. Jack decides to enter the late shop first. At least he won't have to knock. The bell rings. It's bright and warm inside. Behind the counter stands the bearded owner in a cap and apron. There are pies, pretzels, and rolls on the shelves. The smell of vanilla tickles Jack's nose. The baker leans forward, his belly resting on the counter, his thick blonde beard sticking out in all directions. "We have guests? How ugly they are." "Cute or ugly?" Jack exclaims. He's almost startled by his own voice. The baker puts his hands at his sides and says, "I think I'll take the sweet one." He turns to the shelves, picks up a puffed-up roll, and holds it out to Jack. The boy puts the bag down awkwardly. The baker looks questioningly at the bun, grabs a paper bag from the side, puts the bun in it, and then puts it in Jack's bag. Jack hastily clenches the cloth to his chest, but the baker shouts, "Wait!" Another bag of sweets falls into Jack's sack. "Thank you," Jack whispers. "Now, run along," says the baker. The bell rings again. Outside, the wind is blowing in Jack's face, and he covers the cloth-wrapped bun with his palm, soft and warm with a pleasant smell. Jack runs across the street and hurries to the new door he had chosen at random. As he approaches the door, he taps on the metal plate with a hammer dangling from a rope. The door swings open, and a good-natured, voluptuous-looking woman fills the doorway, fixing her hair. Jack opens his mouth, the wind blowing out of his teeth. Sweet or disgusting? "Oh, you little monster." The woman smiles, placing her chubby fingers on their chins, which crawl over each other like a stack of pancakes. "Come in." She steps back into the flat, making way for Jack. Jack steps over the threshold. There is a lot of yellow in the room he enters. The wallpaper is yellow. The cup and saucer on the table have shiny rims, and the hostess has blown gold jewelry on her hands. "Now I'm going to bring you some delicacies," says the woman. She seems to have a sweet tooth herself, as evidenced by the plate of biscuits and jam in 2 Faugere vases, and the bowl full of sweets next to the teacouple. After parting with the sweet ransom, the hostess led Jack out into the street. An annoying bell rings at the next house. It is answered by a gloomy gentleman with a thin mustache, wearing a dusty dinner jacket and a white waistcoat with small drops of blood on it. From somewhere inside comes somber music, a piano. "Sweet or foul?" "Who's there?" comes a muffled female eyes the gentleman carelessly, turning halfway towards the hall. Reaching into his waistcoat pocket, the gentleman pulls out a coin and tosses it up for Jack to catch. "Go ahead and buy yourself something you like, kid." The door slams shut behind Jack as he presses on. The wind gusts at his back, urging him to hurry along. Time is running out. The holiday has its deadlines. Trees creak menacingly. Leaves twirl gleefully at his feet. Lanterns sway, while carved-out pumpkin heads with fiery red eyes and mouths sway as well. Jack knocks at all the doors in a row. An elderly woman with friendly wrinkles around her eyes stops knitting and hands Jack an apple. Her black cat stares at Jack with surprise. The wife wipes a tear from her eye, while the husband smokes a pipe. A couple in their middle age hand Jack candy. Jack receives a few sticky mints from a woman standing alone. She is wearing a long skirt, high boots, iron-rimmed glasses, and her hair is tightly tied in a bun. Finally, Jack's sack is full. "That's all," says the wind. The yellow windows shut off one by one. Jack knows it's time to head back. The baker across the street from his first stop pulls down the shutters and greets Jack with a wave. He quickly retraces his steps. The baker across the street from his first stop pulls down the shutters and greets Jack with a wave. The baker across the street from his first stop pulls down the shutters and greets Jack with a wave. Jack heads down the alley, and the baker, after locking up, examines his shelves. He notices a crack in one of the rows of baked goods and activates the oven to start baking. The bakery owner sighs and tosses the bread into the flames, watching as they flicker around it. The papier-mâché turns black, and the colored wax begins to melt. In the shadowy light of the fire, a bustling figure can be seen removing the decorations. The party's over. Candy pops with bright lights. The baker's face reddens from the heat, like an overcooked pie. He fumbles for the light switch, and the lights in the shop go out. The party is over as a figure disassembles the decorations amid the fiery glow. In his haste, Jack doesn't see it, nor does he see how the lushly shaped woman in the yellow room gets rid of her wig, puts her fingers to the top of her head, and begins to peel off her disguise as if peeling a wiener, revealing a bare, pale head with faded eyes, like the release of a caterpillar that has left its cocoon for some reason. There are 3 warts on the damp face. The one on the nose wiggles its hairs, pulls away from the skin. A spider with a pustular body cautiously moves to the puffy lip and stops there. The lamp goes out. In a house nearby, a grim gentleman lies down on the floor and crawls cracklingly around the furniture. The piano, bunched up, repeats in the darkness over and over, a scrap of the same musical phrase. Jack is in a hurry. He plucks someone's gourd as he walks, the candlelight still glowing inside. The street lights fade in the gloom. The old woman leaves her knitting and sticks a needle in the cat. With frugal steps, she goes to the cellar door, descends the steps, disappears. Soon someone's short, piteous scream comes from downstairs, choked, cut short. Her neighbors, a middle-aged couple, are sitting without light, huddled in different corners of the house. Unable to see each other, they get up at the same time and start making their way towards each other. The husband has a strip of razor in his hand, and the wife has a poker in her fist. An extinguished pipe is lying in a corner. Somewhere nearby, a woman with a droopy nose is making a noose out of a thin violin string. The yellow windows go out and out and out. The door creaks open. Jack discards the unnecessary gourd with a candle burner in one hand and a second the other rises and quietly enters the room. Sitting down and slowly delaying the boy's pleasure, he untees the bag and begins to look at his loot. But it is no longer possible to procrastinate. Colorful wrappers scrabble against each other. Chocolate, caramel, lollipops, nougat mesmerize and entice. Jack knows he can only take one candy. He tries to choose for a long time, shifting the candy. Finally, the boy stops on a big ball of candy. Jack takes the ball out of the transparent wrapper and carefully sends it into his mouth. With a candy in his cheek, a happy Jack leaves the room and walks down the stairs. It's time for him to go to bed. The candlelight goes out on the last step, but Jack doesn't need the light anymore. In the corner of the cellar, Jack climbs into his dusty drawer and settles into the cramped old boards, closing his eyes as always. A faint smile lies on his lips, invisible to anyone but the spiders that will soon weave webs around his face. Jack won't be able to rise again until a year from now on Halloween, but the sweet candy resting in his dry little mouth will remind him of the last holiday.
Hush, little baby, don't say a word. Mama's gonna buy you a